Alicia, would you lead us in our opening prayer, please?
Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for life, health, and strength. God, we thank you for allowing us to come together tonight at this time of meeting. God, we ask you to lead, guide, and direct us in every way that we should go, and not the way we want to go. God, we ask you to just have your way, Father. We ask you to just continue to bless us, Father. We ask you just to bless the ones that's here tonight. Bless the ones who wanted to come but couldn't. Father, we ask you in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, please. Jeff, the flag is out there in the yard.
Okay.
Will you lead us?
Wow, where'd they go?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, you notice I was looking to see which flag it was.
That was all for you.
I apologize for that, but I forgot to bring the flag in.
We'll be,
But we got one out there in the yard, the light on it. Okay. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for last meeting, and that'll take place next week. And then under mayor's update, we got the financials, and they're in your packets, and Debbie, is it complete?
oh no, sir, the only thing that's missing is for the water fund, but it should take me but a few minutes. I don't know why, but I could not get that thing to do right today. But they'll be ready Monday. I'll email them to y'all.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing is the AMA, and Dave and I have not had a chance to get to work on that, and we will get it next week. We still got a little bit of time on that, Randy.
Something that may concern that, I'm not sure, but something that has been discussed in the past but never got anywhere is striping our roads.
Right.
I feel like that would be as much of a safety, concern as anything else, because especially at night, you can't see the edges of the road or the middle of the road.
Okay.
And I know that we got a price on that, I believe, and
Okay.
it wasn't that much.
No, I got that price, I can't remember what
It
it
was
was.
like $800 and something, I believe.
Okay.
So could we move forward with getting the road striped?
I think we
Because-
probably can.
Yeah.
Let's look at that.
And that could come out of LMIG? Or
Yeah,
not?
well,
Yeah,
I
we
see
should.
why it couldn't, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then, also, under, number D is, nuisance order, when, Mr. Anderson and, Mr. Anderson came into the office and spoke with Debbie today, and Debbie, you wanna fill him in on what you and him talked about?
We talked about moving the
The cross ties.
railroad ties that are all up and down West Main. And he was very nice and compliant and said that he would have no problem to do that. And he can't give me a specific date, but it will be soon.
Okay, and then, did I skip something?
Franklin County Water System?
Yeah, I did, Franklin County Water System. All I got to say about that is, we got a letter from them, it's right here. I don't know if it's in your packet or not, but,
It's not.
I'm not gonna read it, but I'm just gonna tell you that, they're going up, the COLA is going up on the rates, and so Franklin County is going up on our rates. I think it's $4 per 1,000 gallons.
No,
I mean,
4
4 cents
cents.
per 1,000 gallons. So, yeah, 4 cents. Just so that you know that. Okay, and then Sutton Road, I think, Kelly, I believe you, reached out and got a bid for Sutton Road.
I did. Did he bring it on?
He
Yeah, I
did.
got it right here. This is from, Big Bow Grading, and their bottom estimate, to cover it completely with gravel and clean the ditches, haul off the grass and the silt out of the ditches, grade and put down either crusher run or 57s. 57 is the size stone. For the crusher run, it would be $16,648.48, and for 57s, it'd be $19,046.
It's the first
I
time.
also got a
Yeah.
bid here from Cody Bell. He said he could get on it just as quick as, we, submitted the bid if he won the bid. And he's got down here, clean the ditches, scrape the road, trim the trees back, estimate 20 loads, at 18 tons per load, 57 stones, $8,000, crusher run, 6,500, labor, 5,000, and so the total price for the 57 stones would be 13,000, yeah, 13,000, and then, for the crusher run, it wouldn't be but 11,000. And I've also talked to, Joey Dorsey about getting the county down there, and, I can get them down there, but I don't have a price estimate on that.
I did reach out to a couple more, but they couldn't guarantee. I did Stratton, and they couldn't do anything until after the first of the year, probably. So I know that this is something that is really bad right now. If anybody has gone down there, there's major
Yeah, I really don't
potholes.
think it's that bad, and the reason, there's a few, bumps, potholes, but the rest of it's pretty good, and I've never heard of anybody getting stuck on that road, and it is a dirt road.
Well, I don't think he was getting stuck, but I think there's big holes.
And
Well,
in some people's opinion, it really.
well, they-
Can we get an estimate from the county?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah,
to.
matter of fact, I called Joey today, but I didn't get an answer.
So we will get that one too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm afraid theirs will be a lot less. Go ahead.
Don't be afraid, that's great. Debbie, can you, like, put all these together and email them to us?
Sure.
We
When you
could,
get
we
the
could,
one
we
from the
could post them
county?
in one and let you look at them, I guess.
I just need to get them.
Okay. Well, she can take a picture of them. Send them to you. All right. Okay, that's all I have on mayor's update, and I'll turn it over to the attorney.
All right, first thing under attorney update is the SPOS reimbursement. I think Debbie did some things on that. If you want to update us on.
I had emailed, Terrell Partain like I was directed to do, and I hadn't heard anything back with him, and it had been about a week or so. So I emailed him yesterday, and I don't know, I mean, I checked my email this morning and periodically, but I hadn't received anything back yet. So we're just waiting on to hear from him.
Anything else on that?
No, sir.
Was anybody able to go to the meeting that night? I wasn't able to go. Okay. All right. Next on the list is the Downtown Development Authority Association.
Oh, that's my mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, the DDA. Y'all have.
Yes, that's me.
Go ahead.
These are the people that we have chose for the DDA.
We need you to speak up.
2 years. Up under the 2 years, Stephen Moshe and Gary Stewart. 3 years, Christy Simpson, George Nolan, Alicia Burnett. 4 years, Adam Sheridan and Matthew Butler. This is for the Bowersville Downtown DDA Authority, Board of Directors.
All right, there was a resolution, that I had drafted months ago, like August or so. And there was a spot in that resolution for the proposed names and the term, so it looks like we haven't done that. What I will do is plug these names and their terms into that resolution, and then that will be voted on, I guess, next week. Whatever discussion map right here, cause that has to be. Is this different than the one that you have?
That's different.
It is different.
That's the last one I got.
We wanted to include the cemetery because there's a lot of funding there.
Oh, so you changed it again? Oh,
I don't know, which one do you have?
this is the one Cindy gave me.
Just tonight? No, that is
No.
different. Yeah, you need to update it.
Okay, well,
Here,
y'all need to let me know these things.
there you go. I just got it today,
Okay.
just a minute ago.
Alright, so this that I'm holding in my hand is the final
It is.
area, okay. Alright, that will be appended to the resolution as, exhibit A on that, okay, and then y'all take it up next week.
Is the, resolution, is that when you choose the, members that have, be on the DDA?
It is, that's when it will be official, I was just handed this, I didn't know this one.
I was just wondering when we had a
Who's
council
gonna be
meeting that we chose the, members of the DDA.
I wasn't here if there was a council meeting.
There wasn't?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be proper if somebody has a list that they're gonna nominate on. It ain't official until they vote on it, and so I imagine that if there's a motion and a second to adopt these names as listed, y'all can have a discussion, and if somebody wants to substitute somebody else out or doesn't like this person, or if there's a challenge to somebody's qualifications, y'all would hash that out. And if y'all want to change names, you can do it at that meeting before you're ready to adopt it. If there are no changes and you just want to adopt it as listed, then you can do that too. But this is what's going to be proposed. You can always change it next week from the floor or however y'all want to do it.
Okay, I just thought the council had to pick the DDA members,
I mean, I guess they,
and there has not been a council meeting to do that? Unless they did it without letting me know about it.
I mean, wasn't present for that either, but I don't think, I mean, you could have done it in an open meeting where you just threw out a bunch of names and hashed it out. The statute is silent on how the names are selected. I'm taking this as one council member's proposed slate. It will be nominated next week. Y'all can agree to it if you want to. You can agree to half of it or some of it or none of it. And then next week is when it's finalized and will be hashed out. So, yes.
The names did come from the applicants.
They did.
We did have applicants, and, you had to have filled out an application to be considered.
How many total applicants did we have?
There
There were 10.
10.
Okay.
I just thought I read in the regulations where the, city council picked the, members.
Yeah.
And, so it needs to be done at a council meeting where it's executive.
We can discuss it. Good with that.
Discuss it.
Okay.
I'm taking it as just one suggestion.
No, they all got together. Come on.
I don't feel that for a fact that may have happened, but.
Did y'all get together and pick these people out? I mean, or
We
did just one of
talked.
you make the decision? Cause if y'all get together and
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not
We
a
did
quorum.
not get
No, we didn't
together,
get together.
because that would be a quorum.
This is just people, I think, sending sending applications.
And that was the, hold on just a minute, the others, to begin with, included Kelly's, which she withdrew,
Mary Jordan.
Mary Jordan, and Teresa Shirley. That would be the 10.
I just want to be clear. that's all.
Okay, yes, and we can certainly discuss it here. I mean,
Yeah, cause we didn't get together.
Oh,
we just talked.
I just thought the members had been chosen, and I know in the regulations it says.
Mhm.
And so basically, those are supposed names, and then at a resolution they'll be approved.
Right.
Okay.
anything else on that?
Each.
Not for me.
Alright. Next on the list is the Hilliard Road stuff, that was the road abandonment. I've drafted a letter that has to be sent out to the property owners. I'm waiting on somebody to give me the name and addresses of the property owners who have property on Hilliard Road. Cause
The statute says we have to give them notice that we're thinking about abandoning
That
that
would
road.
be Judy and Larry Burdette and Barry Clark.
Okay, just those two?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Larry Burdette, and he's not in favor of it.
He told me he was.
He changed his mind.
Now, just to remind y'all, I said it last meeting, but the statute does not require us to run a notice in the paper, and it does not require us to have a public hearing on it, like a county or a state would when they're abandoning a road. But you do have to have a factual showing of the road no longer being, let me get the language right. The statute is OCGA 32-7-2 subsection C. And yet there has to be a showing that the road needs to be abandoned because there's no substantial public purpose for the road, or that the road's removal from the municipal street system is otherwise in the public interest. So there needs to be some showing, I guess either through testimony or assertions from the council that nobody uses the road, or it's not a road that's used very often, or if the road's in such poor shape you can't afford to fix it, or there's multiple ways to get to where you're going and nobody, it's not necessary to have that road, that sort of thing. You can't just abandon a road just because, you have to have a factual reason to do so. We have to give notice to the property owners, and if they want to come in and object, the letter that I've drafted told them to call City Hall or come by City Hall to voice their concerns over that. And then, I would, in the meeting in which y'all do that, you have to adopt a resolution to do it, and the resolution would be your factual basis for abandoning the road. So I don't know what this road is, I don't know the shape it's in, or who uses it, or why you want it abandoned, but you need to have actual facts as to why you want it abandoned.
It's rough. Can you give it back to the owner, the different owners, the two owners there, can you just give it to them?
Well, if you give it up, that's what you do.
Okay.
Because according to Larry, the boundary lines are in the center of the road.
Okay.
The property.
That makes sense.
So, that to me, I don't know that factual, but that's what I'm thinking.
The statute does say that, and it reverts back to where it was before, and then the public no longer has a right to use it. So it goes back to the property owners as before.
Larry said he didn't think Barry Chronic would go for it either.
I don't know.
Well, I will send those letters to them. I'll send it certified mail. They can come express their opinions and give their reasons why it shouldn't be abandoned. And then, for y'all to adopt the resolution, you have to do it in a public meeting, but it's not one where you have to run a notice in the paper. Not saying you can if you don't want to, but you're not required to. All right, that's all I've got.
Okay, committee updates.
Should have the signs up by next meeting, projects at the cemetery. We had our car show, last weekend, and we had considering we didn't have a rain date for the day that we were gonna have it, we had a pretty good turnout. I think we ended up having 11 or 12 cars plus the movie car. And, it was been a lot better, but it was my first car show I ever done myself. So anyhow, I'll take all the blame for it. We did make enough to pay for the trophies. Everybody ate good. And, a lot of people said they wanna come back next year, so. All in all, I think it was a success. Let's grow on it. If the next administration comes in, wants to run, we'll just run and keep building to it every year.
Alicia.
December the 7th, 5:30 to 8 o'clock will be Miracle on Main. Santa Claus is ready to go, and so is the carriage ride.
December
7th.
Do you need me to pick him up?
Yeah, I was gonna call and discuss that, how y'all wanted to bring him in this year.
I think we brought him in the year before last. I used one of my cars.
Okay.
I red white 56, and last year was raining bad, so I brought him in to pick up. So
Well, hopefully this year we'll have some good weather.
I'll get it cleaned up.
All right. Anything else on updates, committee updates? Okay, we don't have any old business, we don't have any new business. That brings it down to the speaker, and the first one on the agenda is Annette.
Thank you for your time. Once again, I've come before you, the members of the council, to urge you to make the right decision regarding the Downtown Development Authority. The election is over now, bringing in Pruitt Manley as our new mayor, Melissa Bailey Holloway and Ted Yergin as council members. I've raised the question in the past to you, Councilwoman Hensley, if you wanted this block of their input towards the DDA to be your first act towards them, setting the tone for how you want to represent your working relationship for the rest of your term. I now ask that question to the rest of the council, because for half of you, this will be your first act towards the incoming elected official, and for the other half, it will be considered your final act towards the people of Bowersville. It is not a decision to make for yourselves because of personal feelings. Those aren't supposed to exist when you take office, because you're supposed to be selfless and serve the people, not yourselves. Some of you are pushing to activate an authority with a list that has no input whatsoever from the incoming council members who will be working with this authority. A decision that cannot be reversed according to the town attorney, Doug Kidd. We are less than 2 months from the new administration taking office. No one here is unintelligent. We know what's going on. Councilwoman Hensley, you have stated to me both on the record and privately that you have no hidden agenda. But I don't understand how you can say that with the evidence that I have previously submitted at prior meetings. The August 15th email that I submitted from you to the town clerk, Debbie Walker, showed that you tried to push a vote at the work session on August 15th with a list that was pre-selected with no applications process. That list appeared to have favoritism and nepotism. However, you explained that away and opened an applications process, wiping the list and starting from scratch. Fair enough. Then after the September 19th regular meeting adjourned, you told me privately that if the DDA had come to a vote that night, suggesting that if any other council members had made a motion to vote on it, you were going to table it until the new year because you felt it was the right thing to do. You also said on the record at the September 12th work session meeting that if the DDA wasn't what the people wanted, you wouldn't do it. Then at the October 17th regular meeting, you sounded like you were placing responsibility on the community for your change of heart on the DDA, citing that the lack of signups for volunteers to help with events and to help search for grants for the Bowersville Park plans was what caused you to change your mind and go forward with the DDA. And you've said in the past that when someone has a job assigned to them, things just get done. But the DDA can't even touch the estimated $5 million park plans.
You got 1 minute to go.
You either haven't done your due diligence to know that the DDA can't even work on the Bowersville Park plans, or you knew, and you placed the responsibility for a decision you had already planned to make anyway on the community. So which is it? You told me that you work, you have a busy life, and you don't have time to look into the funding needed for the park. And that's why the council reached out for help. And that I can understand. I work, and I'm a wife and mother. I volunteer and attend meetings here and in the county, and I have a busy life. And there are plenty of residents in this community that lead busy lives. So why would you ask them to accept any blame for not assisting and looking for grants while you asked them for a pass? They didn't run for office. You did. No matter how you meant your words to sound that night, you appeared to be blaming this community for one of two things. Either a lack of due diligence on your part, or the use of them as a scapegoat to justify a decision that you already intended to make.
You got 30 seconds.
Which you proved here tonight. Whichever one it is, you owe this community an apology.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, next speaker, Mayor Jordan.
I just had a couple of things that I was curious about the DDA. Some things I talked with Cindy and I understand. There are a couple of things though. Is the how the length of terms for the different people? How that kind of was determined, and also I just understood that the area has changed. If that map or whatever could possibly be posted, so that we, can see it, and that possibly, with the names that have been, submitted, nominated, if maybe the length of terms maybe be hashed out, a little bit, as to who has what term, because personally, just looking at it, I really would like to see one of the two women have a 4-year term as opposed to, only the 3. But thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, the next speaker is Mindy Moore.
I'm right here.
Oh, there you go.
Real quick, I'm just also going to speak on the same topic about the DDA. I feel like since especially August, we just keep, we're going around and around, and I think at some point, it was voted to, table the DDA, but we keep bringing it up, and I mean, it's one of those things where on numerous other situations, we talked about, I think it was last month, about the cameras at the park. It was suggested that we table that to the first of the year. It was brought up about, people speaking at meetings, should they be allowed, should they not be allowed, that was that talk, but it was always, wait till the first of the year. You got new administration coming in, let's wait for them, but it's kind of like that isn't the same for this situation. We got to hurry up and get this done. So, I don't really know what the rush is either. Why is it final in some situations, but not final in others? I mean, it's, to me, you got to be consistent. If you want that to be the policy, then it needs to be the policy all across the board. And as far as the people goes, Mr. Kidd said that, he had to have the names for the resolution. So some names were given, but then it's like, okay, well, next week we're going to kind of decide on the names, and then, if we don't like the names in there, then we got to submit more names, and he's got to redraft a resolution, and it seems like we're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, why don't you figure out your names first, let him get a final resolution, and then move forward with the resolution instead of keep doing kind of the same things over and over. And it's just one of those things where, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. If you were a new council member coming in, would you like for, some of these decisions that, from what was been said at previous meetings, once this is established, there's no going back. Would you like that to be done without your input? Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy.
She here.
Okay, Donna's not here. Pruitt Manley.
First I want to tell the council and the mayor that, I commend you guys for the work that you've done. I know that you put in a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of time, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And, then I want to urge the citizens of Bowersville to continue to show up at the council meeting and to be a part of your local town government. That's the reason these are open meetings. That's the reason that, everything is out on the table and put in front of you. So I want you to continue to do that. We're a pretty good crowd here tonight, and, we could do better.
All right.
But I think that's an important part of government, is to have input and participation from, the citizens. And last, I too want to jump on the dead horse and talk about the DDA a minute. I want to speak, and personally ask that, the council to delay the activation of the DDA. And I believe the DDA is a distraction right now, and it will further divide our town and cause more harm to our community. I personally believe that maybe becoming a Georgia Main Street city would be a better fit and a great place to start a revitalization process, program for our town. And I really believe that it's time for the hyperbole, the attacks, and this pot stirring to stop. And it's time for us to come together and get to work on improving our town.
Amen.
The opportunities for growth are there. We have to do some work to seize them, but they're there. And I think that we can do it. And, I think it's time for us to stop, the attacks and the hyperbole and the pot stirring, and let's move on. And, in closing, I'd like to say that I believe that since the present council mayor has had 4 years to govern as you've seen fit, that I believe that the new mayor and council deserves that same opportunity, and I would ask that you afford us that opportunity. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Brooke. Okay, Chuck Dodd.
Thank you. For those that you don't know me, my name's Chuck Dodd, and my father Robert. We've had a machine shop near Bowersville for the last 45 years.
Better.
Maybe a little over 45. I joined Dad probably full time 28 years ago. And over a decade ago, I sat down with Pat Gorin at the Water Authority to talk about the possibility of getting water to us. At the time, he had no lines anywhere close. Bowersville did not run out of their area. You guys were probably back this side of the cemetery. Nothing was gonna happen anytime soon, and I realized that. So we kind of bided our time. We went through 2 or 3 wells.
It was like 4 holes up there.
We got a lot of wells. We've had issues with water, and a lot of the other people nearby have. We've endured, we've kept going. But last summer I talked with Pat again, and by coincidence, he had a request on his desk that was pretty near us. And he was considering it, and he had done some research on it and had put together a plan, but it was an expensive plan. It was about nearly $200,000 to run a line from Moshe Road, which was the county's closest road, over. And I've got some maps for you guys, and I'll let you guys pass them out. The satellite shows what Pat had decided might be the best course of action. The other view shows the nearest line on Moshe Road. Just to kind of give you a bit of perspective, I have colored in where the proposed, what Pat had thought might be the best, to give you a little scale sense. And he has got a plan, and I like his plan. Right now, Bowersville is out of their service area. And I'm not sure, and Doug could probably tell us better than anybody about the service agreement for towns.
Right.
But towns have specified service agreements.
They do, yeah. I don't have ours in front of me, but we would have to consult that, yeah.
And from talking with Mr. Gorin in his office over the summer, he did confirm that Bowersville has run out of the service area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's within right now about 1,300 feet of our building. We're just down the road from where the line
I know exactly.
According to Mr. Gorin, we're looking at what I have drawn on the satellite, 4,600 feet total of line. And that covers his request for the poultry operation that he had on his desk at the time when I talked to him. Another poultry operation you can see on that satellite across Ridgeview Road.
Right.
And there's roughly about 12 or 13 houses in that crook where the line goes. Now his plan to bring one off Moshe Road included about the same number of houses to service, but as you can see, almost 3 times the distance and cost. And he agreed that the best possible way to do it for servicing most people for the least amount of money would be to extend Bowersville's line. Now, I realize that it's extending it further out of your service agreement, but his idea was this. There's a benefit down the line to clean up everything, and that would be to possibly work with the county. If the county is willing to work with the town of Bowersville on this project to get funds to to fund it, it may be a joint situation, in a situation where the county would have the opportunity to buy it back at a point down the road. Bowersville would be able to sell water off the line, but the county down the road would be able to clean up their agreement as would Bowersville. So what I would ask for you guys is to, pursue this with, maybe through the attorneys, let them talk about it and see if we can reach an agreement on it. Where there's a funding, possibly one or the other or both, Bowersville's guaranteed to get their money back out of it down the road. And what Mr. Gordon was talking about when the county line makes it all the way this way, that would be when he would be interested in buying it back. But what I would ask is that you guys consider it and possibly let the lawyers talk it out and see if they can reach an agreement on it. And lastly, on these maps, you see a green circled pond.
You got 6 more seconds.
Drive by that and look at the water table and what's happened to that pond. Thanks.
Didn't we do a study? Who is it?
We did.
We done a study about running a water line up there and on down to those things. And I know it was a good bit of, what, y'all remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
How much money was it?
a lot.
I know it was a ton of money.
We'll have to look.
Mr. Dodd, we had talked to the county about that, back, what's it been, a couple of years back or so? And, what they wanted to do, we would have to go in and, have it financed, I forget how we were gonna I think it was through, GFA loan or one of those. But then, they proposed that when they got a chance to run their lines up this way, up toward y'all, then they wanted us to sign an agreement that we would sell to them our part of it at the cost we put into it, and our problem was that we would still be making payments on that, and then they would be taking the revenue away from us, and we would be left holding the bag.
What you mentioned to me would have been fair market value of the line.
But we would still have our loan to pay off.
And it was hundreds.
And it was way up there, but, also, Mr. Gordon didn't, Mr. Gordon had called me, a couple of weeks ago, and he had mentioned just what you told me about. And, he told me that he wanted to wait, and I hate to put everything over on the new mayor and the new council coming in, but, he was wanting to wait until they could come in and make a decision and do something. But the way it was with us, and my counsel can correct me if I'm wrong, we felt like that our hands was tied, that if we didn't, they didn't give us any estimate when they might run their water up near, and if we just had started and then they took over, then there we'd be strapped. We wouldn't be able to make the payments, you know.
Mr. Dodd, if you'll get with me after meet with me just a minute, I got an idea for you, cause I done the same thing I'm gonna tell you about. Get with me after meeting, I got an idea for you.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
You know, afterwards.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think we can get everybody together, maybe discuss it and see where we're at. I think it'd be good, so.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, that's all the speakers we have for our, work session meeting. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, all in favor, aye. Thank you, folks, thanks for all the speakers. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor. David, I'm doing pretty good. How about you? Ready for these knees, bitch? See you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm all right.